Welcome back to the Eric Crown Crypto channel, where I am desperately battling the hiccups in the early morning over here after having a nice little brunch activities. Whoa, there it is, man. Very much apologies on that. It's gonna be a video full of that, I'm sure. So I want to get into it right off the bat here. We're gonna do some long-term analysis today. I want to follow up on the thread of analysis that we've been kind of putting out here for the past probably close to 2 months now, and also follow up on the short-term time frames as well to start this one off. Anyways, before we do that, I do want to let you know that the Trading Journal features on the Crown Trading application are now live. You can find that for free in the link in the description below. I should let you know, however, that free accounts are limited to like 10 or 20 entries. If you're on premium account, then you have unlimited, and we're going to be offering a lot more functionality on top of this relatively soon as well in the coming updates. That means that we're going to be able to, document, or you're going to be able to document, as well as I'm going to be able to document as well, trading strategies, and kind of, have them nice and well organized, and have all of the relevant statistics that I think at least I would be interested in, and perhaps you as well. So that will be coming soon. Anyways, other than that, we're going to swing back into the Crown Trading application a little bit later within this analysis. And for right now, let's start off on the short-term timeframes, of which I want to follow up on the last like 36 to 48 hours of price action. Of course, coming into Friday, coming into Friday, we did say very, very likely bounce off $44,500 right here. Very likely back up to the short-term time frame hourly range highs, which was 45.5. And we said any sort of a closure above there, even on an hourly, and I would be extending targets back up towards basically the high side of the medium-term time frame range in the $47,000 region right there. We got that move. It looks like yesterday. Yesterday. Yesterday was the second, I guess. Time is flying, man. Anyways, other than that, I didn't really have too much to say about the short-term time frames yesterday. Just that very likely looking at a range with the range lows somewhere right around here at 45.5, and range highs, as we just said, somewhere right around about $47,000. I do still look at this one as likely to range into probably end of today at the very minimum, maybe even into the beginning of tomorrow, Monday, until U.S. market opens at 9:30 a.m. Eastern time, as we do see 4-hour BBWP go back into contraction phase. So we did identify was likely coming into yesterday and in the half day prior. In this case, I do expect that this does come down a little bit further, or significantly further, into the single digits, and then we probably see expansion sometime around U.S. market opens tomorrow, which likely does correlate to a break of that range. In this case, I have plotted an inverted fib right here. Yes, it is upside down. I will get to that in a second, why it is, because I basically want to plot extension targets. But in this case, we can also use it to kind of generate the short-term time frame range. Basically 45, basically about yesterday's closing flow right there on a 4-hour time frame versus 46,750 in this case, meaning that a break above 46,750, and I do look for a move back up towards 47.5 to 48.2-ish region, basically the highs of the general range. Now, I want to be very, 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 very diabolically clear about this. This next piece of information, I am not looking for it to happen, but if this were to be validated, I would immediately switch to very bearish. And until then, actually, pretty much bullish, I suppose, based off of, again, that thread of analysis that we've been following up on for the past couple months here. And what would it be? First and major warning, red flag warning, whatever the fuck, it would be with any sort of even an hourly closure below this spike low that we saw yesterday, which is 45.5. If that does happen, I'd be looking for Bitcoin to retest around the lows at $44,500. That is the major area for myself. Any sort of a higher term time frame, especially higher term time frame closure below there, and that would make me quite bearish for moves back down well below $40,000, probably overall, maybe even more over time. Why would that be? Because that would confirm this weekly as a local high, and if that gets confirmed as a local high, we'd see hidden bearish divergence confirmed as well. Right now it's not, it's just potential, and also on low volatility. So looking for expansion, that'd probably be pretty fucking bad for the boolas there. Again, I don't think that that's necessarily the most likely thing to happen right there, but that would be my sort of validation for major downside. And as always, I really want to differentiate content on this channel versus other channels that you might be watching out there by offering up that sort of nuanced look, because otherwise you just make some crazy claims and like it doesn't mean anything. Anyways, in this case right here, I'm basically looking for Bitcoin to do probably some like this into tomorrow and Tuesday. There we go. Something like that, mediated by that 46,750-ish region short term, be getting moves back up towards this region right here. Here's the thing though. while I do think that the upside is more likely, I would not validate upside continuation until, at least we're closing 4-hour dildos back above about 48,250, or even a daily above like 47.5, probably good enough as well. And at that point, yeah, the next sort of targets that I'm looking at are going to be up here. We do have a technical target right around $52,000, which is relevant because that is actually one of the last major stutter steps before Bitcoin had its last major meltdown in December, obviously, and it's also the 2-spot extension, as you can see right here on this particular chart. I also would mark off an area of interest along the way to the upside as well between the 1-spot 414 and the 1-spot 618 Fibonacci extension, which is basically like 50,000 to 50,500 or so, give or take like $100 from that number. Anyways, until then, a bit more sideways here, very, very likely into tomorrow, I would suspect, and then probably fun times after that. Other than that, is there anything else that I want to reference here? I suppose we could look at short-term time frame stochastic momentum. We will see 12-hour stochastic momentum turn back onto the upside with any sort of a closure on this next one at above 46,420 or so. Great number, and it actually would be kind of a trend line regression play over here as well. So, you would kind of look for it to potentially play off that. Whoops. If you are going to be, if you are going to end up bullish, 6-hour over here is going to show what? Is going to show upside above about 46,300 or so. 4-hour is also going to be twisting back up freshly above 46,300, and hourly is probably flippy floppy here, I'd guess, but no, it's actually vertical right now above 45,800 or so. So, keep those numbers in mind. Generally speaking, though, I think that ranges are the way to go over the weekend. Things are most likely to range over the weekend in general. Anyways, let's move on to the fun stuff now. So, okay, do we want to start off with this chart? Bang this horse to death. Okay, that sounds terrible. Bang this horse. What the fuck? Pete is gonna not like that. Or then again, I mean, maybe if they really truly love animals, maybe they should be. Not a good discussion to be getting into on today's video. Anyways, talk about the long term here. Also, I think the upside is more likely, or at least statistically speaking, more relevant right now. And we have to once again reference the 5-day chart, starting off with volatility, referencing the BBWP indicator. And we have seen in the past couple of years, anytime that has gotten down to the teens, it has the expansion from those extreme lows has led to some, pretty impressive breakout, or not breakouts, but expansion phases to the upside and the downside. Obviously, volatility is direction neutral. So in this case, the reason why I'm calling it out is because we've once again got into one of the lowest levels that we've seen in a couple of years, and are starting to expand from there. We got our first positive slope 2 closes ago, and we're working on continuing that into this next one, which will be confirmed, I believe, on tomorrow night's closure. It's also above the moving average as well, which is typically where the moves really start to, gain their power. It's like the accelerator essentially. Looking on the chart over here, I've obviously gone ahead and measured them out a million goddamn times, and we can see that on average from that expansion point, it has led to about a 45% move either to the upside or the downside from, again, that extreme low. And typically takes on average about 40-ish, maybe a little bit more than 40 days, as you can see right here. And of course, we did start to expand, I would say, technically speaking, right here was like your first expansion. So, probably looking for this move to happen maybe like around end of this month or a little bit after that. Let's say like a month to like 6 weeks or so from now is probably what you're looking at. And if we were to anticipate the targets to the upside would be about $56,000, to the downside would be about $23,000. Obviously, we've done this a million times as well to kind of get a bias on this direction. The 5-day stochastic momentum oscillator over here is or has been getting the direction actually perfectly right on these. For all of the iterations shown here over the past almost 3 years now, actually. We can go back further than that as well, but I think this is just like a lot easier to see in the same pane. And you can see the first one, obviously to the downside, that's what you saw right here. The next two to the upside, that's what you saw right here, and right here again on that fresh cross. And then of course the December one to the downside. Anyways, on this most recent one, it was to the upside as well. And now we're actually back into the bullish control zone for the 5-day stochastic momentum. So, I do look at that as, high probability of continuing on with that upside move. Probably, actually, I forgot to check this as well, but I'm going to guess that one of these fib extensions is probably postured around that $56,000 region as well. Yeah, we got the 3-spot and the 3-spot 272 right around that region, in fact. which is also of interest because it will align with a couple other targets. But do I want to address that first, or do I want to? Yeah, we might as well address that first. That also aligned with this target over here based off of this as an ascending triangle reaccumulation formation that Bitcoin put in through the months of January, resolved here in March. It does have a technical target up to $56,000. And if we take a Fibonacci retracement from the high to the low of this last major move right here, you will see the 0.618 right around that $56,000 region as well. So I look at that area as very much relevant. And then the 0.5 is about 51,500 to 52,000 bucks right there. So both of those major targets are starting to show up in several places. So I like the confluence right there. And now I want to address another thing that I think just implies that the likelihood of upside continuation is just it's more likely right now, based off of this as well. And this is just a silver cross right here between the yellow 21 and the green 55. We got a fresh cross on CME specifically right here. Let me actually we can do it like this. There we go. Maybe I could have done this a little bit better, but you get the idea. I marked off with these red circles all of the crosses that we have seen actually through the history of CME. It's only happened a handful of times, but every time that it has happened, it's been active for a long time, and some pretty big moves, both the upside and the downside. Obviously, there was one outlier I should discuss, which is coming in from the March dumpola. That was your Rona dump from years ago. That one only took about 2 days. So a bit of an outlier right there. Obviously, you do need to be as thorough as possible. But other than that, on average, it's been taking like months basically from the cross to like the next major high or major low. Whoops, there it comes again, man. Apologies on that. Anyways, in this case right here, we just got a fresh cross a few days ago on what would be theoretically a bit of a breakout right there as well. So I just look at that as like another indication that Bitcoin's more likely to try the upside than the downside. Still want to see that validation even on the short-term time frame to the upside above about 48,000 bucks basically. But at that point, I do look towards basically 52 and then 56 or so. However, I would be very cognizant that we're very likely to see a pretty major breakdown, or maybe not a breakdown, but at least a major pullback from one of those regions. There's 3 regions basically that I would be looking at. One of them is going to be the 382 where we're at right now, which Bitcoin has gotten almost a 10% pullback from that region, to be fair. Then there's also, of course, this region and then this region that we already referenced, but it comes down to the global open interest over here and the leverage ratio, both of which incredibly fucking high. Now, we did see it, to be fair, higher earlier last week. When it was about 14.5 billion or so on its current highs, from the 27th. Again, this represents leverage positions, so this essentially speaks towards the severity of the unraveling from those positions as people either get forced out of their positions or decide to let go of them. And to put this in perspective, we haven't really seen these sort of levels of open interest get hit since like Bitcoin was trading in December at $56,000 for reference. And in fact, we got significantly higher, like almost $1 billion higher in open interest than when Bitcoin was trading around like $52,000 in December as well, late December that is, and also very comparable to what we saw in April of last year when Bitcoin was putting in at $65,000 high. So this is a divergence here, to be fair. So at some point, there's very likely going to be a major unraveling, which has correlated to some pretty nasty downside moves for Bitcoin in the past couple years here, very, very consistently. The problem is though, the key ingredient with this is that in order for me to be looking for that move, I need to see like a full-on confirmed reversal. So as we spoke about, if it is going to happen from Bitcoin's current high right here, I need to see it come back down below basically last week's low, and preferably close a higher term time frame below there. If that happens, very, very likely we're going to see a move back down somewhere around like mid-ish $30,000 territory. I think that's less likely. I think it's more likely to happen from either this region or this region. Again, about 52 or 56 or so. And depending upon how high it gets first, I wouldn't judge the pullback target until then, but let's say, did get 52, probably looking at a pullback, probably somewhere back down around like 44 to 45 if I had to guess. If it happens from like 56, probably looking at it more around 48 to 50 or so. But for right now, too far away, obviously, and I think it's time to move on into the next thing. So I also wanted to reference this as well on the monthly here. Seeing as we got a new monthly, let me pull this one up. The monthly BBWP measuring, of course, volatility yet again. We are seeing it pretty much at the lowest level it ever has been. The only one that was lower was like June, July of 2020, coming out of the Rona dump before Bitcoin went straight to the upside. And anytime that we have seen it like relatively low and then cross the moving average on it has been essentially, all of these moves here, which have been some pretty impressive moves to the upside. Hasn't been too many times, to be fair, yes, but ultimately, just another thing that does kind of say on the macro scale, I do still lean towards the upside rather than the downside until that prior condition is met. Until that prior condition is met, very, very important. And then we can start to entertain, very nasty targets, obviously. But yeah, this is still undecided. However, we did not get clarification on this situation coming into our new month of April, actually. As you can see, the volatility is still remaining with downside, or it's not like the volatility is remaining with downside. It's still contracting right here. I want to see it get a positive slope and then preferably above the moving average. That's when I do look at whatever current trend that we're looking at as likely to continue in that case. But for right now, it's still, possible, but just kind of speaks towards the severity of the likely move coming over the next month to month and a half, let's say. Anyways, other than that, as a reference my notes over here, I want to once again pull up this chart, the Tether dominance chart. I believe we hit our target to the downside from the past couple weeks. Yes, right to the top end of this blue box territory right here. The question is now, do we bounce first or do we fall first from this region? Typically speaking, I am going to be looking for a bounce off this region first on at least the short-term timeframes, but ultimately longer term, something very important was confirmed here as of this new week, or I guess it was like a couple weeks ago, in fact. But we're getting continuation from that, so that's essentially what you want to see. But bearish divergence was confirmed on this, so I am looking for this one to trade sideways and down. Probably going to be some bounces in between there, maybe even back up to 4%, which is going to very likely put downside pressure on Bitcoin price action. But ultimately, I would be looking for this one to come down at some point, probably somewhere around about 3.25 or so. So that also does bode well for Bitcoin historically speaking as well. Anyways, what else do I want to reference? Maybe Dixie really quick. Dixie did hit one of our downside targets. Also got a bounce from there, which I did not speak about, but I'm actually looking at this as likely the high of the bounce. I'd really only invalidate that if Dixie trades back above basically the highs, which is like 99.25 or so. Above there, I suppose I have to be bullish again. In long term, I actually am bullish on this, but I still do think that short term, like probably sometime this month, we're looking at a pullback here, or a continuation of that pullback, if you will, probably down somewhere around like low 97 or so. Just another thing that kind of would align with Bitcoin, probably giving at least one more try to the upside before any like major phenomenal pullback. Other than that, I think I've hit just about everything that I wanted to hit. I got some hiccups in the background as well. So yeah, it's a good one right there. Anyways, yeah, I mean, if I want to make this as simple as possible for the macro, I'm still looking at 5-day stochastic momentum as kind of getting the overall move. And as long as Bitcoin's above these critical regions, which we'll get another closure in just a day, so that'd be Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I do look at the likelihood of Bitcoin trying up somewhere into like the mid 50s or so as more likely before a potential like major pullback and maybe even meltdown. Either that or Bitcoin comes back down this week below the low of this prior week, close any sort of a higher term time frame below there. That would also be a good indication, at least in my at least in the way that I look at things, is very likely some big downside to come. Until then, I'm gonna work on getting rid of my fucking hiccups, which is incredibly annoying and incredibly embarrassing. I'll be sounding off now. We'll be back on tomorrow with some more live stream analysis. Take care and see you soon.